I wanted to switch up my look today and do some makeup based off of some trends I've been seeing for spring 2025. And for this video, I wanted to use some older products in my collection, products that have been around for a while. Just because sometimes when we see these new trends, we're kind of tempted to buy the new products that are based around these trends, but you can totally do these trendy looks using what you already have in your collection. I really wanted to do this video today just to get out of my normal makeup routine because I've kind of been using the same handful of products and I just needed to switch it up today, and I love how my look turned out. I'll link the websites down below where I found these spring 2025 makeup trends, but as always, you can do your makeup however you please. Trends come and go, and what matters is that you do what you feel the best and most comfortable in. Let's get started with the base. So going through these articles, the marketing and kind of buzzword that I'm seeing is cloud skin. Pretty much cloud skin just means soft, blurred, kind of diffused looking skin. Think of like a soft matte finish. So since we're using more older products today, for my foundation, I wanted to grab the Fenty Beauty Ease Drop Blurring Skin Tint, and I have the shade 2. Now this skin tint I absolutely loved when it came out. I had this in my deeper shade, shade 4, and I ended up panning it and using it completely. But I haven't used this shade 2 in a minute, and I've been meaning to try to get more use out of it to decide if I want to keep it in my collection or not. I have this issue a lot when I'm very fair, but a lot of foundations can just really accentuate any dryness on my skin, and I find that this is the case with this one for me. I really do love the blurring soft matte finish, but I want to try a hydrating glowy primer underneath this to see if that'll kind of counteract the dry look that I can get from this sometimes. So for primer, I want something hydrating and glowy, so I grabbed this Natasha Denona High Gen Primer Serum. I think this came out either last year or the year before. It comes in a dropper. I'm just gonna take some of that. I think the reason I stopped using this is just because like the whole glass skin, really glowy skin trend is slowly going out, you know, which is why we're seeing this cloud skin trend. You can just immediately see how much glow that adds to my skin, so I'm hoping this will layer it nicely on top. I'm gonna use my Beauty N14 brush to apply this. I want to say this was one of the first skin tints that I really fell in love with. I think when it launched in, I want to say 2022. I actually kind of think this skin tint was a little bit ahead of its time because I feel like right now every single brand is dropping a skin tint, and just this word skin tint in general is also a very buzzed about kind of marketing term. A skin tint is really just a lightweight foundation, but a lot of them have, you know, a lot of skincare benefits in them now too. It's just kind of funny, all these buzzwords that come up to sell products. Like think, you know, years ago, BB creams and CC creams were so popular, and that's like, it's the same thing as a skin tint. So now with this cloud skin trend, you might think, oh my gosh, I need to go buy new products to fit in this trend, but really cloud skin is just a soft matte finish or even like a satin finish, and that's why I picked this Fenty skin tint because it really does have a beautiful blur to it, while also having a really decent amount of coverage. I would say it's more of a light to medium coverage. I'm actually really happy with how this is laying on my skin. I think that hydrating glowy primer definitely helps. Now I'm gonna go in with my NARS a soft matte concealer on just a few places that need a little more coverage, but I think we can really see this cloud skin trend coming through, especially in the products that are launching right now. I feel like we're seeing a lot more loose powders launch recently, which really do give you that blurred skin effect. Think the new YSL one, Kosas just came out with one, and then we're also seeing so many more powder blushes right now, also baked blushes, but it kind of seems like cream and liquids are slowly headed on their way out. I've seen Kelly Gooch talk a lot about how with trends like the pendulum just kind of swings. So before we were doing this like super dewy glass skin, and now the trend is going a little bit more matte, soft, blurred finish. So then think about all of the new powder matte blushes that have come out recently. We had YSL, Urban Decay, Say just came out with their baked blushes. We also have Tower 28's new setting matte blushes. So that's kind of why I wanted to do this video, because we're seeing all of these new launches with these like newer trends, but I'm sure that a lot of us already have these type of products in our collection, which is why I wanted to use more older products for this look, because you don't always need the newest makeup product to achieve a trendy makeup look. I'm gonna go ahead and pop on my under eye concealer. I'm using the Natasha Denona one in the shade R2, but I'm also excited to do this look today just to kind of get out of my normal makeup routine, because you guys know like I have been layering so many cream and liquid blushes and doing that whole look, so I'm excited to just kind of switch it up today, really. Then I'm applying my Rare Beauty eyeshadow primer on my eyelids because I am going to do an actual eyeshadow look today, not just putting bronzer in my crease. So to continue with the whole cloud skin look, of course I'm going to set my face with some powder. And for this, I'm going to use a loose powder under my eyes and then a pressed powder for the rest of my face. So for my loose powder, you guys know I have been loving the Huda Beauty powder. I use the shade Pound Cake all the freaking time. But I want to switch it up today and use some older products in my collection. So I grabbed the Sigma Soft Focus Setting Powder. I have the shade Vanilla Bean. It has honestly been a minute since I've used this powder to set my eye area, so I'm kind of curious to see how it's really going to look. I always like to start by tapping out any creases, picking up that powder on my puff, and then I like to work that powder into the puff using the palm of my hand so it's more evenly distributed on the sponge. And I'm gonna set. So I've really been liking a loose powder under my eyes because I find that it just gets into every little nook and crevice that I need it to get into and really does smooth everything out. I also think the motion of just really pressing it into your skin helps as well. You can totally see how that just softened all of that out. I can't tell if this powder is like a true translucent powder. I feel like it has a hint of a coloring to it because I feel like it look a little bit more yellow right now, but I'm gonna keep going and set the other side. Okay, that looks nice and smooth. Now for the rest of my face, I knew exactly which powder I wanted to use. This is an old favorite of mine. I've been using it for years now, but it's literally called the Cloud Set Powder. It's by Kosas. I want to say I've gone through like 2 or 3 of these at this point. Mine is looking a little busted, but it's such a good powder. So I like to take it on a big fluffy brush, and I'll just put that on the rest of my face where I didn't put that Sigma powder. Now what I've always loved about this powder is that it's really lightweight and it does soften and blur and kind of smooth your skin. It almost looks like you have a filter on, and I know that's like a crazy claim to make, but what I really like about this is that it does set my makeup, but it's not overly mattifying like a loose powder can be. So that's why I like to use the loose powder under my eyes, you know, to really set that area so it's not going to crease and move throughout the day. And then something like this on the rest of my face just to set and kind of smooth everything. Now that my face is set, I want to zoom in and do the eyes now just because my blush color is going to depend on my eye look. So let's do eyes first. Now for spring 2025 eyeshadow trends, I've been seeing monotone lid and sun-kissed eyes. So for sun-kissed eyes, think of your more warmer tone, something peachy or just like a soft warm brown. And then for monotone lids, that kind of means keeping the eye look pretty simple, maybe doing a wash of color all over the lid, maybe something else in the crease, but just overall keeping it really simple, which is what I have been liking with my eye looks lately, so I'm excited to do this. So for my palette, I was really tempted to use Natasha Denona Bloom just because I really have been loving this one in the warmer tones. Like, this is perfect for spring, honestly. But again, I wanted to use something a bit older, so I thought I'd grab my palette with Sigma. But in my palette, I do have those kind of more peachy, warmer tones I've been into more, like Schmoogala, Peachy, and Evermore. So I want to do something soft, warm, and easy with my palette. So I'm going to take the shade Peachy on a crease brush. So we're thinking soft monotone lids today, so I'm gonna run this shade across my entire eyelid. And I am going to do a few layers of this shade on my lid just to get the amount of pigment that I want. But you can be kind of messy with this shadow. Just keep your brush on your lid at first when you're initially placing down that shadow. And then I'm going to bring my brush kind of towards my crease and just do back and forth motions to blend out this shade. Now I picked up more peachy on the tip of this brush and I'm going to run that across my entire lower lash line. Alright, so I'm happy with how this shade looks wrapped around my entire eye. If you need help blending, you can always grab Bare. Bare is my go-to shade for just softening out any edges of the shadow. Peachy did blend out really, really well on its own, but I just wanted to show you this in case you need a little help. I also think with this more monotone, kind of simple eye look trend is why we're seeing so many more just like single shadows, specifically shadow sticks. Now, honestly, I've never been a huge shadow stick person, but I'm always open to trying more. So if you have a favorite cream shadow stick that you love, you think it's easy to work with, you pop it on, you're good to go, let me know your favorite. Because I do think they can look so beautiful on the eyelid. I'm just typically more of a powder shadow kind of girly. So there is my monotone lid just using Peachy from my palette. You could totally do this type of look with Schmoogala. If you wanted to go even more orangey, you could add Evermore. But I do want to add some liner, and the trend that I'm seeing for this is simply just lived in liner and kind of more that smudgy look. And specifically, kind of more brown and copper shades are trending, but that is pretty typical for springtime. It just kind of seems like people are leaning away from black liner. I know that I definitely have been in my own personal makeup style. So for my liner, I grabbed two shimmery browns that I love. They're both from Urban Decay. So this first one is Double Life, which really is just a coppery brown shade. And then we have Smog, and this one, it was one of my favorites for so long. It has a lot less warmth to it, but I still love this shimmery brown. I think for this look, I want to use Smog just since that peachy shade is already so warm on its own. Now I want to try this more kind of lived in liner look, and honestly, I've always struggled to get this look on myself because I tend to be very precise when I do my makeup, and so I kind of have to think like messy, smudgy thoughts as I do this liner. But I'm actually going to run this across my lower lash line. If I had no nails, I would use my finger, but I can't do that. So I'm going to take just a pencil brush and just run this liner back and forth. And you do have a little bit of time to work with these liners before they dry down. I'm going to add some to my top lash line as well. I really do love this soft shimmer in this liner. I think it's really pretty and just kind of adds a little bit of pop to the eyes instead of doing like a matte brown liner. I want this liner to stand out a little bit more, and I do have the perfect shade to put on top of it. And that's going to be Autumn from my palette. So I'm going to take that on my pencil brush. I'm just going to run that right on top of the liner. This will kind of add to the smudginess look that I'm trying to go for today. And same thing, just adding that to my top lash line. I also like adding powders on top of my liners because it really does help to get that soft look. Okay, there's the before and after with the liner. I like what the liner added to this eye, so let me get this one caught up. Okay, I got my monotone eyelid, my smudged out liner, feeling good. I'm gonna go ahead and pop on some mascara. I'm gonna use the e.l.f. Lash and Roll. Here's what the eyes look like with just mascara for those of you who don't like to wear false lashes. You guys know me, I love my false lashes. I have my own lash brand, so I'm gonna go pop on a pair really quick. I went ahead and popped on my lash. I'm wearing the style Whisper from my brand, The Bright Lashes. This one is a half lash, so it's just sitting right out here on the outer corner of my eye, but what I love about this lash is that it's actually shorter than your typical lash. So if you have small eyes or hooded eyes, this lash is gonna look much softer on you. It's not gonna overpower your eyes. It's not gonna touch your eyebrows or anything. I do wanna finish up the eyes with a little bit of highlighting. So going back to my palette, I'm gonna take the shade Bright and pop that right in the inner corner. And a little bit under my brow. Okay, eyes are done. Let's go back to the base makeup because I am so flat right now. I have no dimension to my face. So for blush, again, sticking with this whole cloud skin soft matte finish, I did want to grab a powder blush in my collection and one that I haven't really gotten a lot of use out of. And it is the Kosas Baked Blush in the shade Dreamland. So I'm going to take that on my fluffy blush brush here. Now, I remember being so excited when I saw that these blushes were launching because I do love a baked blush. I really do like a lot of Kosas products. I mean, you just saw me use their Cloud Set powder. But I didn't really fall in love with this blush like I kind of expected myself to, but that does look really pretty. This blush was also really highly anticipated as well because it got leaked, I want to say like 6 months before it actually launched. So I'm kind of wondering if because of that is kind of why like the hype really died down around this blush. Or that's just what happens with new launches nowadays, honestly. Okay, but I'm actually really happy with how this looks. I honestly don't know if I've tried this with my fair skin. This might be my first time doing it while I'm this fair and don't have a tan on. And the baked formula on this is really nice too because it's not completely matte. It is gonna have the slightest bit of a sheen to it, but I like that look a lot. And this shade is also just kind of perfect for this look where it's more warm toned, has some peachiness to it. Really happy with that. Also, who am I not layering 3-4 different blushes right now, but this looks really good on its own. And then for bronzer, I grabbed a matte bronzer. Again, it's another one I have not used in a while. It is the Sigma Matte Bronzer and I have the shade Light. I honestly kind of feel like I forgot about these Sigma bronzers a bit, but when I pulled it out of my collection, I was like, oh yeah, this is a matte bronzer. Even though you can't really see my forehead with all of this hair, I'm just gonna add some color up here, adding a little bit of bronzer kind of along this upper part of my cheekbone and bringing it into my temple. And then also bringing some of that down my neck. When you have short hair, you always gotta bring your bronzer down your neck, no matter what. Now to finish off with lips, the trend that I'm seeing is just blurred lips. Honestly, I think the overall trend that I'm seeing is just softness. Like with all of the aspects of the makeup, there's no harsh lines, there's no harsh liner, there's no cut creases, there's no contouring. Everything is soft and blended and diffused. But we're definitely seeing this blurred lip trend with a lot of the newer launches. Think of the Refy Lip Blur, the Rhode Contour Lip Pencil. I honestly haven't tried either of those products, but I just know they've launched. And I love a softer blurred lip. It's what I've been doing a lot more recently as well. I don't really do a lot of lining on my lips. I kind of just pop on like a tinted lip product and call it good. But another lip trend I saw was strawberry lips. Think of that just bright kind of red popsicle color. I kind of wanted to mix those two together, do a little blurred lip, but with a pop of kind of a strawberry brighter color. Because again, I am trying to switch up my makeup routine today and use products that I haven't used in a while. So I grabbed these two options. First is the Lawless Forget the Filler Lip Plumping Gloss in the shade Cherry Vanilla. I was obsessed with this probably like 2 years ago. I finished a whole tube of this before. So I'm just gonna apply this on my lips as is. And you can see it does have a little bit of that reddish tint to it, but I love this product on its own. It looks so juicy on the lips. It also does kind of help smooth out the lips. Again, smooth is just like the word for this video, I feel like. I do have lip filler, but this product is also supposed to kind of fill in any lines on your lips. So that's just the Lawless on the lips, but I wanted to add one more product on top just for another pop of color. Again, I'm just trying to use products I haven't used in a minute, so I grabbed this. It's the Tower 28 Lip Jelly in the shade xoxo. I just want a little bit more pigment with this. So this one does pull a little bit more pink, but I love how juicy my lips look right now, and I think they kind of do hit that strawberry lip trend with just that brighter color. All right, well that is my final makeup look following some of these 2025 spring makeup trends. I really do like how my makeup turned out today. I love the softness and simplicity of the eyes. I'm really liking how that smudgy liner looks. I've kind of stepped away from liner recently, but I'm really happy with this. And then while using all of these older products today, the one that shocked me the most was definitely the Kosas Baked Blush. I really love how my cheeks look right now. They have just a touch of radiance to them, but it still looks super soft and blurred. I would love to know your thoughts on these spring trends and whether or not you would incorporate any of them into your makeup routine. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.